Anything Goes with me, Becky Walsh. It's the last show. I'm a modern day agony aunt for your life's questions and for some deep insights you're just not going to get from your friends. This is our last show of the series. I feel kind of sad. I'd appreciate some love. Have you been enjoying the show? Let me know. You can pop me a tweet to #CallBecky. Let me know what you've been thinking of the series so far. We want to be able to come back and do a second series, but I really want to know, what do you think? What are your comments? What are your observations? Have you been enjoying it? What have you learnt during the series? Is there some moment that you went, oh, that was a light bulb moment, that was a breakthrough moment? I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to know what that was. Now, as you know, this show is led by your calls, and we start by giving you some subjects that you might like to talk about, but actually you can talk about anything. I mean, literally anything. The number to call is 033 33 403 700, and we want to hear your thoughts and opinions too on the subjects. If you can give better advice than me, I am not going to stop you. So you can call in the show and say, hey, Becky, about that other caller, I went through that myself. Why didn't you tell them to do this? Because that's what I did and it worked. I'd be very happy to hear your opinions as well. Now, on the show, we're talking, have you been too single for too long? Because you can't find love behind a locked door. So we all get a bit shut out sometimes when we have been single for a while, especially if we've been hurt and let down in the past. So we're talking about how to ignite your heart when it's just, you'd rather have a cup of tea, you just can't be bothered with it anymore. We're also talking tongue-tied with pond pits. Now, I mentioned pond pits to the team and they were like, what's a pond pit? What do you mean by pond pit? Use your imagination. Pond pits. You might have experienced them over the last few days. It's been very hot. You might have had a few pond pits yourself. And we're also going to be talking about how to step into your power at work so you don't end up tongue-tied with pond pits. Our guest is the totally brilliant super coach, Michael Neill. He's going to be joining us live. I'm so excited that you're going to be meeting him. And sexting, how to use the right words so you're always on a promise. Fellas, I need you to pay particular attention to this because I'm going to be honest, in my experience, you're not that good at it. So I'm going to share some tips. I've just got this vision now of all of my ex-boyfriends texting me. Do you mean me? Do you mean me? Yes, I mean you. You're not that good at it. But to start us off, are you disempowered at work? Because maybe you're doing the wrong job. You know, some jobs just don't light you up. They don't fill up your soul. They don't make you feel amazing. So I want to know from you, and I want you to write in. You can send in this to me now. What are you doing when you like yourself the most? Now, this isn't what makes you happy, because sometimes what makes you happy can still make you bored. I'm asking you, what are you doing when you like yourself the most? For me, I like myself when I'm helping people. It's a bit of a no-brainer, right? It's why I'm doing this job. You can pop your answer to me via Twitter using the #CallBecky, or send a tweet starting with the word Becky to 88833, and I'm going to have a little look at your answers there, and I'm going to be able to find out what it is about you that you should be doing. So we can kind of like look at what lights you up and ascertain that to the job to see whether or not you're going to be disempowered or empowered by the job that you're doing. Now, we've got a caller on the line. Hello, is that Jess? Hi, Jess.
Hi Becky.
Hello, what made you call the show? Hi, good evening.
Hi, yeah, I'm just a bit worried about my child. My child was smacked in the face by another child recently in school. The other child sort of has meltdowns and becomes aggressive or cries at small things.
Right.
And my child got quite scared. Now, school have been really, really good about it, but the trouble is, I sort of go into the schoolyard and the mum's had quite a surprising reaction. She's become really, really, really nice and kind and offering all kinds of things in front of everybody. And I'm sort of got really bad body language because I'm sort of trying to protect my child.
Yeah.
And it's almost as if they're the victims, not us. So I feel really bad because I can feel my child sort of digging the heels in as we go into the schoolyard because I've got my hackles up and she's sort of been really lovely and I'm trying to tell my child how to deal with it and I can sort of feel my child feeling really, really under pressure and I feel powerless to sort of know what to do, really.
Well, also all of that niceness is we go into this idea of feeling like it's our fault, so it's like bad mum guilt, you know. So we always think that looks really bad on us. So then we're trying to compensate, and I know that you probably know this already, that you've got to allow your kids to feel exactly how they feel, and if they stay angry and they're upset and they're annoyed about it, they have every right to stay angry. And the problem is that as parents, because we want everything to sort of be nice at the school gates, we then sort of somehow feel like we're putting pressure on our kids to kind of like go, oh well, look, let's just brush it all under the carpet and pretend that everything's okay, when you're still dealing with an awful lot of kind of anger and other things that come up. I think, you know, it's really difficult because going back in the day, if it was boys, before it would have just been that they weren't told not to fight. They would have just actually ended up having a bit of a scrap and sorted it out between the two of them. Now, I'm not saying that that's the right way to go, because obviously that's not the right way to go. But we haven't seemed to have caught up with this new way of dealing with aggression in well, I want to say boys, but aggression in girls comes out in a completely different way. And I think that we've all suffered from that as well. But I think that really, maybe there's just a little bit of transparency here, which is to say, I just really appreciate what you're trying to do, but actually I still just feel really uncomfortable about it. How would you feel about taking her for a cup of coffee and having a chat? Because I wonder if she could actually do with your help.
Yeah, in a funny kind of way, I think she probably does do my help. I just feel that I'm sort of mixed up with sort of anger and, yeah, I'm just sort of thinking of my child really at the moment, but yeah, I suppose so.
Because it's difficult, isn't it? Because obviously she's coming at it from her point of view of trying to make everything okay, and in actual fact, by trying to make everything okay, it just actually sort of somehow is making everything worse. But she probably doesn't know what to do. And also, I do think that, you know, you need to trust your child. Because even though we become like lionesses around our children and become really protective, and we want to experience every crappy thing that they could possibly go through in life for them, we don't want them to experience anything bad. And sometimes that's about how that reflects on us as parents. Now, I'm not a parent, so I'm using the royal we here. But sometimes that affects, when we look at this, we kind of like go, you know, if I can't save you, if I can't rescue you, if I can't protect you, what kind of parent am I? But when you think back to your own childhood, didn't some of the knocks and scrapes and things that happened actually make you stronger or something? It doesn't always make us stronger.
Actually, yeah.
So sometimes when we think we're protecting, are we protecting, or are we kind of like creating some kind of like crazy inoculation that they don't really need? And I wonder sometimes, I think the greatest thing that you can ever give a child is your trust in them and your confidence in them. You know, it's like when a child walks into the room, we're so used to kind of like looking at what they're wearing and whether or not their socks are pulled up or what it is about them. And we because of how that reflects on us, on whether or not we think that we're good parents or not. But when we take ourselves out of the equation and ask this one fundamental question, do I trust my child to be bright enough to be okay, to figure this out for themselves, and to understand that they are going to learn some fundamental life lessons that are going to carry them forward? How does that feel when I say that to you?
Yeah, I mean, that's maybe look at it in a different way, and I think that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, you know, it's easy. Like I say, it's easy for me to say I don't have children, and I think I've got to quantify that and underline it, because there's nothing that's more annoying than people who don't have kids giving parents kids about, you know. But in my experience of doing this for quite a lot of years and reading psychology and neuroscience and all of those kinds of things, that means that I can kind of, even though I've got an outsider's point of view, I've kind of got like a bit of an educated point of view around it too. But I think, you know, you're obviously a bloody wonderful mother, so that's the most important thing that you need to take from this. But also take from this that I think you've got a really smart child. If that child has anything to do with you, I think you've got a smart child there. And I think that you can trust them to be okay and to figure this out. Your issue now is with the other mum, and I reckon take her for coffee. That's what I would do.
Yeah, thank you. That's really, really helpful. Thank you.
Good to talk to you. Thank you so much for ringing into the show. Really good call. Thank you so much. I really think that you're going to be able to help a lot of people. Jess there was a brilliant caller. This is our last show. If you've been watching this series and thinking, I'd love to call Becky, but I don't know, I haven't quite got the guts. Now is your time. Now is the chance. Number to ring 033 33403 700. If you're a little bit shy, you can text, starting your text with the word Becky to 88833. And don't forget, you can email becky@madetelevision.tv. We will be coming back after the break. I hope that you're going to get involved. We're going to be talking to Michael Neill. I am so excited. You really don't want to miss this. Michael Neill is a super coach. He's absolutely amazing. We're going to be talking to him about negative emotions that we feel, feeling disempowered at work, and how to build our confidence. And he's going to be helping you get all of those juicy tips that man has been sharing with millions of people for absolutely years. We will catch you right back after this break. See you very soon. Welcome back, I'm Becky Walsh. This is our last show of Series 1, can you believe it? And I really want to talk to you. You can join in the conversation. The number to ring is 03333. How many threes is that? 403 700. We will call you back. It's not going to be on your phone bill, so feel free to give us a ring. And don't forget, you can tweet with your comments, views, thoughts, what you've made of the show so far. You can do that on the hashtag #CallBecky. And also, don't forget to tell me, what are you doing when you like yourself the most? So the text also as well, you can text starting with the word Becky to 88833. Now, we've had an incredible series. We have talked to so many people and we have changed some lives. And I have to say, that is down to you. It's been down to your calls, because without your calls, I wouldn't have the opportunity to be able to say some of the insights in neuroscience, psychology, intuition, life's purpose, all of the and the rude stuff, but all of the interesting stuff that we've managed to do on this show. So I really thank you for getting involved, and I want you to get involved. It's our very, very last show. And if you've got an opinion about tonight's show, you just want to get in touch, just let us know what it is that you think. Now, we've got Michael Neill. Now, if you have seen my bookshelf, it looks like a Michael Neill shrine. He is one of the most incredible super coaches. I would say that his work has definitely changed my life, and I'm very excited to be able to introduce you to Michael Neill now. Hello, Michael.
Hello. I wish I could see the shrine. Not many people have shrines to me. That would be quite nice.
I just have to tell you, it's not surrounded by photographs. I mean, you're a good-looking guy, but it's not like kind of crazy with, I don't know, some kind of like effigy or anything.
Right. In fairness, my wife doesn't have a shrine to me either, so I think we're fine.
Yeah, well, that's all right then. No, but your books have been amazing, and they really have changed my life. And I wanted to get you on the show as soon as we came up with the show idea. I mean, I've interviewed you before. I'm interviewing you soon for my podcast, Idea Sex, which is available on iTunes, by the way, so we're going to do that interview soon. But I really wanted to get you on the show because we've had some kind of running themes from people during the last 8 weeks that we've been running Anything Goes. And we've been talking about being bullied at work, we've been talking about people feeling disempowered, and I wanted to ask you, you know, is this some kind of confidence problem that people are suffering from, or is it something else? What happens when we have that theme of feeling disempowered?
Well, feeling disempowered is really just disconnecting from, for lack of a better word, the power within. In other words, it's not really something, it's like losing your mojo. You know, in Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, where they have the whole plot is basically that he steals his mojo. Well, you can't really lose your mojo. It's just, mojo is a word that we use to describe that sense of kind of natural confidence that we have when we're at our best. And the only reason we ever lose our mojo or feel disempowered is because we get caught up in our own heads, and we get caught up in our own thinking about why things shouldn't be the way they are, and why we shouldn't be the way we are, and why other people shouldn't be the way they are. And we just lose touch with that sort of natural energy that's always running through us.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so really, when we're looking at a current situation where it looks impossible and it feels like I'm looking at where I am now and I'm looking at where I want to be and everything feels impossible, do you think that that's just a change of mindset that creates more hope for people?
Well, there's something that it does for you when you recognize that the way it looks to you when you're feeling low is not the way it really is. It's the way it looks to you when you're feeling really low. We don't realize how much of our thinking is actually a projection rather than reception. It's projector, not camera, or even more accurately, thinking is more of a paintbrush than a camera. So we're not really getting an accurate perception. We're just sort of feeling low, so we paint a dark painting. And then when we're feeling better, we paint a nicer painting and it looks more hopeful. The situation hasn't really changed. We just are inclined to paint something different depending on the mood that we're in.
So is this also why when I'm with certain friends that I will end up kind of having a conversation about my life that seems to be... So I'll give you a good example of this. With some friends, I talk about my life and I'm like, oh, this is really exciting things happening and this is happening and I'm super psyched about that. And then other friends, I will cherry pick what doesn't work. So in a way, in those conversations, I think that I match to whatever the friend is feeling. And so do we do that? I don't know quite where I'm going with that. I don't even know if that's a question necessarily. So I'm just going to stop there and
I'm kind of waiting for your voice tone to go up and then I'll know.
Then you'll know. Yeah, very English. So it's kind of, I think that the thing is what I'm hearing you saying there is that sometimes our mood can change with environments, with people that we're with that can influence us in different ways, or just simply the fact that it might be an overcast day and then suddenly everything just seems darker than it did the day before. Nothing's really changed in our life, just our perception. Is that what you're saying? So can outside influences influence it too? I got a question.
Yeah, no, I got there. No, see, I would say actually it looks like outside influences are the influences, but in fact it's independent of that. So there will be some gray days where you're in a really good mood, and there will be some sunny days where you're in a really foul mood. There will be some days where the friend amuses you, and other days where they piss you off, and so it's actually an internally generated thing, but we're not in control of it. You know, this idea that we just need to be better at mind control is a very archaic notion of the mind. It doesn't really work that way. Thoughts are coming through your head 24/7 all the time. It's just that the ones that you don't particularly focus on don't particularly impact you. The ones that you make a big deal out of are the ones that become how your life feels to you.
So sometimes is it the human desire to fix something, like fix ourselves or fix a situation, and the fixable things or the things that we want to fix or want to change then becomes the focus?
Well, so there's something that I read about in the space within, which is that there's no such thing as a solution to a feeling. We have this notion that there are certain feelings we should feel and other feelings we shouldn't feel, feelings that are good feelings and feelings that are bad feelings. And so we try to jump in and fix the bad feelings. But a feeling is just a reflection of what we happen to be thinking in the moment. And to think you can fix that is like thinking you can fix the weather. The weather is the weather. It changes. Yeah. Regardless of what's going on, the sun's always up there. You know, it doesn't actually go anywhere. We just sometimes miss it from time to time. But it's the same with us. It's sort of our own well-being, our own innate happiness is always there. And sometimes it gets covered over with a lot of clouds and weather, and sometimes the weather clears and we're just able to bask in the sun.
Now, I know that you've said before that we were only really one thought away from a better feeling. And after I'd read that in one of your books, I can't remember which book it was, I noticed that in my own life, that I would suddenly, I might get a phone call telling me that something good had happened. And then there was kind of like a conflict inside of myself because I was properly miserable before I got the call. And then I'm like, oh, hang on. And it's almost like I could feel the wrestle going on in myself between the two things. I thought, Michael's right, you are actually one thought away. Can you speak about that a little bit?
Well, it's a very interesting thing, but I used to think that the fact that people's moods could change so quickly was because they were fickle, or they didn't really mean what they thought, or they didn't really mean what they said. It's actually quite the opposite. That's the way the brain is designed to work, is to just allow the next thing through. It's designed as a sort of a flow through. But we try and take each thing and go, oh yeah, no, this one. No, okay, no, this one. And we try and kind of hang on to it. I don't know if when you were a kid you ever did it, but when I was a kid, if I got mad at my parents, they'd send me to bed and without my supper, and I would sit there and go, yeah, well, I'm going to show you. I'm going to just sit here, and I'm not going to eat ever, and I'm going to die, and then you'll be sorry. And like I could only keep it going for about 20 minutes, and then I would bloody love them again. And there was and the thing is that as grown-ups, we get better at hanging on to a grudge, hanging on to a thought, hanging on to a sour image. And so it feels like that's the way it really is. It's not, and the second you let it go, there'll be another thought along in a minute.
Yeah, so it's really a case of just becoming a little bit more aware that you don't have to hang on to these things, you don't have to fix them, you can just let them flow, and that you don't have to put importance. I always say it's a little bit like being unhappy about being unhappy. That's twice the amount of unhappiness. It's one more than needed.
I remember I live essentially in Hollywood, and I remember going out to a restaurant with my wife, and there were these two actress/models at a table near us, and one of them was complaining about her boyfriend did this and he cheated on her and he did that, and her friend was definitely unimpressed. She'd heard this story before, clearly. And finally this first girl just builds up to a crescendo, and she's just like, why do I keep meeting the wrong guys? And her friend just says, the problem isn't that you're meeting the wrong guys, it's that you're dating them. And
I think you've just explained my love life there, Michael.
Well,
thank you ever so much.
I was trying to get it in covertly. But the thing is that it's not that we have negative thoughts or feelings, it's that we date them. We make our lives about them. We make them so important. Look, if you let it, bad moods come and go. If you see a kid,
absolutely.
Right, your kids,
hey, Michael, I've got to
really
jump in because we're going to go into an ad break. I'm so sorry. I could talk for you for years. You know that. I think that you've just sorted out my love life. Michael, live from the US, thank you so much for coming on the call. We're going into an ad break now. Sorry about that, but we'll be coming back to you right after this break. Thank you for watching. Thank you for coming back to us. Tonight is our final show. Well, that's for series 1 anyway. So if you were thinking, do you know, I've got a little problem going on in my life at the moment. There is something that is not working. I'm a little bit out of sync. I'm a little bit low. I'm a little bit fed up. Well, I'm your girl. That's what I'm here for. Anything goes. Whatever problem you've got, no problem too big, no problem too small. In fact, last week, someone dropped an F-bomb on Theresa May. Live on my show, they did. So this show really is anything goes. We're answering the rude questions, we're answering your funny questions. We've had some prank calls as well during the series. And do you know what? The team were like, do you think that was a prank? Yeah. So you can call about anything you want. That's what we're doing on the show tonight. Any problems that you've got, or if you have got a bit of advice that you want to give one of our callers, then you can do that too. Or to talk about any of the subjects, or you can even make up your own subject. That's what it's all about. Anything goes. Number to call 033 33 403 700. Now, you can also log putting in an email as well. And you can email at becky@madetelevision.tv. And in actual fact, we have had an email come in, so I'm going to read that out. I like this, kind of on the pad. Okay, Becky, for 15 years I was single, celibate and a lone parent. I had 2 bad marriages and subsequently 2 traumatic divorces that affected my 3 young children badly. I decided that it was now or never, that I had to switch off my mojo. Interesting, we've got a lot about mojo tonight. Michael Neill was talking about mojo earlier, so we know what mojo is. That she was switching off her mojo because she really wanted all of the complications out of her life before making another relationship what she's called mistake. I never think any relationship's a mistake. I always think it's the right one for right now, for whatever it is that I need to learn so that I don't do the same thing twice. I spent the time focusing on studies and became a qualified teacher. I worked, studied and gave my time and care to my children. Now, kids grew up, and about the time that my son was about to go off to university, he turned around and told me, Mum, get a date. They're like that, aren't they? Now, her best friend helped her regain her femininity, because sometimes we lose that, don't we, when we have to be doing all of the jobs of our fathers, you know, with all of the responsibility of our mothers. Difficult. That's the way it is now for women, just saying. Okay, so she lost her femininity and her friend gave her some styling advice and told her to go to dance classes. So she was doing all of those things, which sounds great, but her friend pointed out something politely, that she turned a little bit aggressive. And that can happen as well. Aggressive is actually defensive. It's when we're trying to protect our heart. So we come across as being a little bit rude, but actually we're not. We're just protecting ourselves because sometimes we feel a little sensitive and a little vulnerable, especially after a couple of bad relationships. I know that. So she went on adult dating site. Good luck with that. And to try out her new mojo and basically, as she calls it, get a shag. And lo and behold, she met a really nice guy, started dating in February. They met up again and again. And now in May, he proposed and they're going to get married in the following April. And she wasn't expecting that. That reminds me of that annoying song. Anyway, and she says, now she's giving you guys a bit of advice based on her story. This lady's name is Chris. She's going to give you some advice on her story. So if her story matches yours or something similar, because I tend to find that you end up, you know, like a book falls off the shelf and it was the book that you needed to read, or you were channel flicking and suddenly you got the advice that you needed to hear. Well, that's what this show's all about. It's incredible how that stuff happens. Very strange. Divine intervention, possibly. She says, if anyone out there has been single for too long and they need to find their mojo, I strongly recommend belly dancing. I'm not surprised. It's all down there. You know, you can be any size for that. Belly dancing's very good for you. Salsa classes. Oh yeah, getting a little bit hot and, you know, nice. And cherishing yourself more, which is true. Step into your sexiness and get out of your comfort zone and you'll soon meet someone that you can love. Thank you so much for writing in, Chris. I think that is really, really good advice. I think that we get to these points where we just kind of get very closed down and shut down when it comes to relationships. So on the show tonight, we're talking all sorts of things, but again, you can talk about anything that you want. So we've been talking just here about mojo and relationships, but I'm also going to be giving you some very good sex texting tips. We've got Emma on the line. Hello, Emma.
Hello.
Hey, Emma, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. What made you call in the show this evening?
I guess it's kind of like sex texting, but also like things like people asking for photographs. There's a lot of that kind of going on at the moment, and my kind of feel about it is that it's probably best not to send photographs because you never know kind of what people are going to do with them, or, you know, kind of where they're going to end up. But it would still be nice to kind of send a photograph. So I guess it would be nice to maybe, or better maybe, to do it without your face being in there. Or
yeah, totally. I mean, I know there's like Snapchat, which just sounds like Snatch Chat. It just sounds weird to me, just saying. I've never tried it, but, you know, where it's like the photo's there for a few seconds. But still, anytime that you're using something that's kind of like over social media, you just don't know where it ends up. And I think you're right. And anything that doesn't use your face, I certainly know of one person who actually used porno sites to send a photo. So the guy thought it was her, and of course it wasn't her, it was somebody else. But she kind of said, I said, the problem is that it's still got your name on it. So it's like, you know, even if it's unidentifiable, it's still got your name on the text, which isn't kind of great. And I also know somebody else who'd sent her boyfriend, you know, so they've been in a long-term relationship, kind of like those sorts of, you know, quite sexy photographs, but very, very graphic. Someone stole his phone at a wedding, went through his messages, found the photos, and went round the wedding showing everyone. Now, she was at a wedding where she didn't know anyone. She was his partner at a wedding that was full of his ex-girlfriends and friends. So you can imagine. Now, she did a very funny thing, I have to share with you, Emma, that when this girl went over and sort of was just being a bit catty and went, oh, you're a very game girl, aren't you? She went, oh, yeah, well, you know, I used to be a very famous porno star. So, you know, my little bits are everywhere. And this girl went, oh, completely threw the shame right back in her face. But actually, when we're talking about these things, it is about shame. It's about the shame of if you break up with someone and they send those photos out, or also sometimes, you know, I think it's kind of like quite crazy when people are sending them to people that they've never even met before, and then blackmail takes place. you know, I think that's pretty bad. So have you been asked to send these kinds of pictures, Emma, or are they, you know, have you been asked to do that? Have you had to say no? Because the problem is with saying no is it makes you sound like a bit of a prude sometimes, doesn't it, if you put your foot down?
Yeah, that is the thing, and you know, I'm totally not a prude. But also, you know, actually taking a photograph, a nice photograph of yourself, is actually quite difficult.
It's
you know what I mean? Like,
it's bad enough trying to do a selfie.
You're feeling really horny and you're there trying to take all these great photographs, and by the end of it, you're just like, I'll give up. Just chuck it to one side.
It's like a game of Twister with a selfie stick.
Totally is. Totally is. Haven't tried getting a selfie stick though, so maybe that's
yeah, maybe that's the thing.
Way to go.
Well, because otherwise you're trying to hold this phone in between your feet and kind of, you know, and how do you press the button? It's just
exactly.
It's just. But you know, I think it's really ridiculous as well, because to be honest, I think sex texting is an art form, and you can say something that's seductive that makes somebody want to make love to you. What a beautiful thing to do. But it seems to go from, this to send a photo. There's no kind of romance in it anymore. So, you know, I think it needs a little bit of romance, so it's something that's quite you know, it's flirtatious, isn't it, rather than it being graphic?
Yeah.
The thing is about guys' brains that is different from girls' brains is that guys are really pictorial, which is quite often why a guy will like kind of like, you know, page 3 or stuff like that a lot more than perhaps a woman is going to. Because, you know, if you ever go on dating sites and guys have just taken photos of their cock and put it on the dating site, like Tinder or any of the other ones, and you're just going, ugh, nasty. And it's such a shock. No. Oh, he's cute. Yeah, no. Cock shot. Oh, just is horrible. And I don't know why guys think that is a good thing, but it seems to me that guys think that girls react to genitalia in the same way that guys react to pictures. And I don't think we do. I think we are more story-based and wordy and more, we like nice things to be said about us, don't we? Don't you think being told, oh my goodness, I can't wait to move your beautiful hair away from your neck and kiss your ear. Nice, just saying. That's just a bit nice.
I met a couple of months ago, a guy chatted me up on the street whilst I was walking to work. Yeah. And so I gave him my, it wasn't texting, it was email, but it's kind of a similar thing. Gave him my email address, and we were emailing that day. And only about like 3 emails in, he started talking about my arse and how amazing my arse was, which is like, okay, great. And then he started talking about my arse being naked, and I'm just like, hang on a minute. We've only had like a few messages. I've literally seen the side of your face. You know what I mean? Like, and you're already talking about my arse as being naked. Like,
inappropriate.
Like, a little bit too much.
Emma, it is lovely to speak to you. I'm going to have to kind of cut you off there because we're going to go to a break. So, this keeps happening. We get into good conversations, so we have to go into breaks. We will catch up with you after we've paid some rent. Catch up to this. Nearly at the end of the show, but you have got time to get your questions in if you want to. 033 33 403 700. It is our last week before we take a bit of a break and then we come back for series 2. And so don't forget that you can also tweet any of your comments about the show to #CallBecky. What have you been doing when you like yourself the most is one of the subjects that we have been talking about on tonight's show. And don't forget, you can text with the word Becky to 88833. Now, this is the test. And I know what it is that you think when I say anything goes, you think I'm bluffing. So we've had an email in and I'm going to go for it. So she says, seeming slightly embarrassed. I'm not slightly embarrassed, so let's just put it out there. Now, I am not going to give this person's name because I don't think it's their real name anyway. So it says, I asked my girlfriend to poo on me before sex as it really turns me on, but she said it's disgusting and dumped me. I was about to say, no, am I normal? Okay, so this kind of sexual activity is something that people do. we used to make these jokes about it involving Pyrex dishes so that it doesn't get so messy. It's actually not completely uncommon for people to actually go for kind of like toiletry behaviour in the bedroom. However, seriously, dude, I mean, seriously, if you just kind of like came out with that one with no kind of like little preamble before, hey babe, would it be okay if you were to squat one on me? You know, you kind of need to give it a little bit more preamble, perhaps be in a relationship, perhaps experiment, perhaps we're taking a wee first or something. The thing is about it turning you on. There are different things that turn people on for many, many different reasons. You know, for example, I'll give you an example of this. If your parents were to have like big arguments and then go into the bedroom and have make-up sex, it might be that you have psychologically got something connected in your head that basically says, love to me is when two people fight and then they make up, so that it could be that there are more fetish stuff that you're into, a little bit more of the spanking stuff, different things like that can actually come from a psychological connection for something. Now, I'm not a sex therapist, but I would say to you that there is some kind of psychological connection for you. There is something about degrading yourself in some way. And of course, the worst thing that we could possibly do is to have someone poop on you. So at the end of the day, this is about really degrading yourself at a very base, subliminal level. Now, I don't know whether or not you sent this text in to dare me. I think you probably did. And now you know my mettle, which is you can dare me and anything goes on this show. So I'm happy to cover any topic. So even though many of you are going, well, I wish you hadn't, Becky, what are you thinking? Oh my God, this show gets worse and worse. How shocking. Well, it's the last week and we will be doing a series 2. But at the end of the day, on this show, we've covered some topics that have changed people's lives. And that's what I'm about doing. And maybe somebody watching this has just learned something really valuable from what I've just said. Because at the end of the day, when you add a little bit of neuroscience, a little bit of intuition, a little bit of psychology, you know, we are all very different and we're all strange human beings. And at the end of the day, my job is just to make what you might see as being abnormal, normal. It's a little bit like going to see, you know, a priest where you get told 3 Hail Marys and blah, blah, blah. Sometimes all we need to be witnessed in our strangeness. So whatever made you text in and give that as a message, there was something that you needed witnessing about. And I'm here to witness, not to judge. And I will have fun with it, but anything goes. And that is what this show is actually all about. Now, ladies, this next part of the show is just for you. I am doing this for you. It's the top 3 things that women wish you guys knew about sexting. Okay, are you ready for this? Okay, take a moment. You need to talk about their pleasure, not what you want them to do to you. Now that might sound like real serious common sense, but you won't believe how many sex texts are all about, I want you to do this to me, instead of trying to seduce them with what it is that you want them to do to you. Now don't give them a list. It's not a sexual shopping list of things that you want them to do to you. Don't do that. Really annoying. You want to seduce them with, like I said before, I'm going to move your hair, I'm going to do this, I can't wait until you get home, I'm going to pull your shoes off, I'm going to pour you a glass of wine, and then I'm going to do some unmentionables to your private parts. That's what we want to hear. We don't want to go straight into the I'm going to get, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, just saying. Number 2, I'm going to bang you so hard is not poetry. It's not poetry, people. It's really annoying. So make sure you tease and compliment. That's all the stuff that we want to hear. And number 3, we brought it up with Emma earlier. No photos. Do you hear me? No photos. We do not want to see your cock, and we don't want to be sending you photos of our private bits. None of that. No. So stop asking over and over and over again. You just have to take no for an answer. Now, we've had another text come into the show, and it's on a bit of a similar vein, I believe. So let me just read that to you. I keep having one-night stands, and I don't know why. I'd love to meet a boyfriend, but when I meet people, I get a little flirty, I get a little drunk. Did I write this? No, anyway, I get a little flirty, I get a little drunk, and then we end up in bed too soon. Then they never want to see me again. Do you think that I'm using men to hurt myself? I'm always left feeling lonely. It's really heartbreaking when that happens, because I think we can end up sometimes hurting ourselves because we want to be loved and we want to get a sense of appreciation. And, you know, for some of us, it's a little bit of a feeling that we want to be seen. And sometimes all it takes is someone being nice to us. And then sometimes it ends up in kind of that niceness reminds us of that intimacy that we really long for. And I think that sometimes women have sex with a guy when what they really need is a hug. And I think that this can also be about father issues, because sometimes when we're in the company of men, we long to be in that safe space where we feel protected, you know, like that father kind of thing. And if you didn't get a great dad, and just intuitively reading through your text in a sense to kind of like a bit of a vibe about you, I feel that there was something lacking in your relationship with your dad. And then that means that when you actually get involved with people, it becomes a little bit too more physical because you want to get that safe man smell that perhaps you were missing before. So I would say to you, you know, just don't drink too much when you go out, and make sure that you get somebody's telephone number or they get your phone number, and make sure that you go out on a date with them. I think that would be a really good thing to do. Now, I've just had it flashed up and said into my ear by the producer that that the person is now shamed. His little poo message earlier, he's admitted it was a lie. Thank you for admitting it was a lie. And my producer just said, what's the point? Why would you do that? I think he's a bit disappointed that it wasn't real. Sorry, Steve, it wasn't real. I didn't think it was real, but at the end of the day, like I said, I knew you were testing me, but here we go. It was good advice. You were testing, and I've proved my point. This show really is anything goes. So we've got a final text coming in. I'm just going to rush through it because we're coming to the end of the show. I can't believe we're coming to the end of the show. My girlfriend is amazing. I love her, and she supported me through my depression. My girlfriend has now stopped instigating sex with me because I never want it. I'm afraid that she'll leave me for somebody else if I can't perform. I would imagine that you're probably on antidepressants, which can sometimes have an effect on your libido. And I would just say to you, you know, at the end of the day, that's all in your head, a little bit like what Michael Neill was saying. Sometimes we have that all in our head that we think that someone's going to leave and they're not going to leave at all. At the end of the day, you know, if you've got that safe, kind of like comfortable relationship with that person, you know, share your fears with them and talk to them, because quite often you're going to get, what are you thinking? Like, what are you thinking? You're the best boyfriend I ever had. You're the most wonderful person. You love me amazingly. It's okay. You know, you're not depressed all of the time, and sometimes you are and sometimes you're not, but I love being with you. So at the end of the day, don't hold that all into yourself, because that suppression, that repression is why we call it depressed. It's depressing feelings. It's depressing emotions. It's not allowing ourselves to be heard. And it's really important. Tell her how you feel about that. Well, we've had an action-packed final show to send off our Series 1. We've spoken to Super Coach Michael Neill, who's given us some amazing tips to empower ourselves at work, which has been brilliant. We've been talking about some rude stuff with this hilarious prank. We've spoken to Emma about sexting. I've given you some sexting tips, and we've been talking about emails and how we meet people. And also Jess called in about how to deal with parents from having bullying at school. So that is us. Thank you so much for getting involved with the show. You can keep in touch with me. My website is beckywalsh.com. You can tweet me at beckywalsh.com, or you can find my Facebook page and like me. But I want to say a special thank you to every single person who got involved with this show. Because of you, you have changed the lives of people who have watched this show. It's not just my advice. It is what you have said to make people know that they are not alone. And that is fundamental. I want to say thank you so much to the Made in Bristol team, to Steve, my producer, and everybody else that has worked on this show. We will be back on the Made Network. We will be with all of the team again, and I cannot wait to see you on our second series. We're going to make it even better than this one. And I want to say to you, just remember to live the life that lights you up. You have got this, and I look forward to speaking to you again on Series 2, and do keep in touch.